Green 18! Green 18 up! Green 18!
Hi, I'm Jackson.
He got tired.
Welcome to Average Joe's Sports Show, and today I'll be having a special guest, and it's going to be Trey. So what's up, Trey?
It's going pretty good.
Colton's not going to be here today, so we got another Bears fan to come in and talk about the Bears with us. So today we're going to be starting it off with Matt Nagy and how he's getting chants on how he should get fired at NFL games, high school games, and Chicago Bulls games. And it's also said that he won't be the coach for the Chicago Bears after this Detroit Lions game on Thursday. And how do you feel about that? Do you think he'll be the coach after, regardless of what happens?
Well, if they lose, I think he should be gone immediately. But I do believe it's true. There's this too much evidence around it. Too many people saying there is, like that he's done. And I think he is. There's no chance. High school games, like people are chanting for him to be fired at Bulls games. I mean, there's nothing more you can really say about it. There's no chance he comes back after this Thanksgiving game.
That's what I think. I mean, honestly, I don't think he'll come back. I think it sparked a while ago, and it's just kind of after that Ravens game, I think it kind of got out of control. And then, I mean, if you're chanting it at your own home field against the Ravens and then you lose, I mean, that's just
that's an injured Ravens team too. Severely injured.
No
Lamar.
They didn't have Lamar. Marcus Peters is out for the season.
Yeah.
I think Calais Campbell walked off the field. I remember seeing that,
Yeah.
but I don't know if he came back or not. But I mean, that was just they should have won that game. They kind of sold it at the end, but do you think it has to do with Matt Nagy losing that game?
That game was 100% it. The Ravens weren't even fully healthy. You had every chance to win that game. And you ran one screen pass, and you never ran it again. That screen pass was a 60-yard touchdown, and you never ran it again. And that was with Andy Dalton on the field. Didn't even do that with Justin Fields after he got injured. There's just bad coaching by Matt Nagy. He should be done.
Yeah, I honestly think that this should have happened a while ago. I don't think it should have happened straight after that Browns game. But I think that Browns game was definitely a huge part of it.
Yeah, it was a gut punch for sure.
That was probably one of the worst offensive games I think any football players ever seen in their life, and it was just terrible. But I think on to the next thing is who should replace him if he does get fired?
I mean, there's always Brian DeBall, the Bills offense coordinator. I think that should be their best choice because what he did with Josh Allen. Josh Allen was one of the worst passers in the league. He had really bad accuracy, and he turned him around. Obviously, this season he's one of the MVP candidates early on anyways. I think he should be leading that race. My personal pick would be Joe Brady. I absolutely love that guy. That guy's awesome. He did crazy things with Joe Burrow when Joe Burrow was in LSU. He revived him after he transferred. That's who my pick should be.
Yeah, I think that Brian would definitely be a good choice at first because Josh Allen at first, he was on the brink of almost getting replaced. Yeah. I mean, but he was just such a raw talent at the position, and then with all those interceptions and fumbles and turnovers in general, and just making stupid plays and trying to make nothing or something out of nothing.
Yeah, it's like the same thing that Justin Fields is going on. He has bad ball security, throws the ball up randomly. Mm-hmm. I mean, just with help from Brian DeBall, I think he could be a really good quarterback.
And I think that maybe another thing that could help Justin Fields is, I mean, they already have Allen Robinson, but I feel like a stud number one receiver would be great for his development because, I mean, Herbert had one, Mahomes had one, Lamar hasn't really had one, but I mean he's had Mark Andrews, which is still
Yes,
a
that's
pretty
huge.
pretty good choice. And I mean Stafford had Megatron.
Oh, yeah.
Like they had, and then it just works off from there because then they can work better without them, and then it'll just all flow out better if they're like star receivers and then.
I agree.
And Joe Brady. Oh, let me tell you about that LSU season. I love that season, just being an LSU fan, and to like look at how Joe Burrow played at LSU, or not at LSU, at Ohio State, and then to come to LSU and break literally like every single quarterback record and have one of the best quarterback seasons of all time for college. I mean, that was just insane, and it was just like that too. Right after that one hit against UCF.
I think early on
USF.
this season, it made me really want Brian DeBall after what he did with Sam Darnold, but obviously we all see how that turned out pretty recently.
Yeah, that didn't really work out too well.
But I think he could really do something well with Justin Fields. Justin Fields is a very good quarterback, I think, and
I think
he can
Justin
really lead
Fields is a better quarterback than Sam Darnold, and I think he's a better raw athlete than Sam Darnold too.
For
So
sure.
I think it'll be a lot easier to work with him over Sam Darnold. But I saw Colin Cowherd, he was talking about Sam Darnold, and he said that he probably has like one of the best work ethics of like anybody in the NFL. And that kind of speaks numbers, but at the same time, it's like he hasn't really done anything in the NFL, and he hasn't really proved himself to be a star quarterback in the league. But I think another guy that Rich was telling you about was Brian Baldwich.
Oh, yeah, the Tampa Bay offense coordinator, isn't it?
Yeah, that was the Tampa Bay offensive coordinator.
I mean, granted, his quarterback is Tom Brady.
Yeah.
That team is way more stacked than Chicago's.
Yeah.
And they just won a Super Bowl. So, like, obviously their team is built, so he'd have to take some time and a lot of effort to rebuild the Chicago team, which I think they need to rebuild. It's an aging defense for sure. Khalil Mack getting up there. Keem Hicks on his last year. Eddie Jackson not performing. It's just
Danny Trevathan.
Danny Trevathan too. Just your only really star on that defense is Roquan Smith.
Mm-hmm.
So you just
Jalen Johnson is starting to break out as a
I
star
forgot
corner.
about Jalen Johnson actually. I think you have really good pieces there, and which Ryan Pace drafted pretty late most of these picks.
Yeah.
It's just
I think those are two good corner pieces to kind of go around and build off of that. Jalen Johnson right now is playing at a Pro Bowl level, and Roquan has been playing at an All-Pro level, and I think that they're pretty good to build around. And once Khalil Mack's out of there, they're gonna have to find a replacement for him pretty quickly.
yeah, I agree.
He was a pretty big part of that. But also, yeah, Tampa Bay did just win a Super Bowl. They have one of the best offenses, one of the best teams in the league, but especially offenses in general. Even though they have Brady, Evans, Godwin, Brown, all of those. I mean, I think that it's not always just the players, and a lot of it is schemes, and a lot of it is them getting open because they're just so good.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you could have really good players and not that good of a coaching staff and still be pretty good.
Yeah, I agree.
And he was talking about Eric Bieniemy. Bieniemy.
Kansas City's offense coordinator.
That would be huge.
Now, here's the thing. Just with him over there in Kansas City, obviously when they were in the Super Bowl, he was one of the top favorites to be a head coach, and he never ended up being one. But with him and looking at that offense now, actually, their offense is starting to break out, and they're being kind of dragged on by their defense. Is it really him developing Patrick Mahomes, or developed Patrick Mahomes? Because it seems like he's already developed, or was it mostly Andy Reid?
That's a good question. Andy Reid's a really good coach, and he's had pretty good quarterbacks too. I'm pretty sure when he was on the Eagles, I don't know if he was with Vic, but I know he was with Donovan McNabb. But I'm pretty sure he was with Vic, and then he was with Mahomes, and I forgot what other team he was with, but he's been with a lot of good quarterbacks and a lot of good teams in general.
Yeah, he was with Alex Smith for a year. wasn't he?
He was with Alex Smith for a few years, and Alex
Yeah.
Smith wasn't even that bad of a
No, he
quarterback.
was not. I really liked Alex.
He was a pretty solid, maybe like top 20 quarterback
Yeah,
in
I'd
the
say
league,
average.
maybe. He's like average, above
Yeah.
average. And I think that Patrick Mahomes was 130% an upgrade. And I think that maybe it was Andy Reid, but I don't know.
Eric Bieniemy didn't he wasn't there when he was drafted. It was actually Matt Nagy who was there, and that's where we got Matt Nagy from. But obviously, it's not really working out too well. Matt Nagy wasn't able to develop Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah.
And Brian DeBall, even in preseason, Trubisky looked great in the preseason, really good. So maybe he could bring some light to Justin Fields.
Yeah, and I think Justin Fields, I feel like the Bears, it's not just him that needs to be developed. I think that Darnell Mooney needs to
sure.
develop more, and I think Cole Kmet needs to develop a little more, and Montgomery is almost emerging as a top 10 running back, and I think that they could be in for good things once they get all their offensive linemen back,
Yeah.
and if they can keep Allen Robinson, hopefully.
No, they won't keep Allen Robinson.
If they can keep Allen Robinson, then I think they will be good for next year with the development of Justin Field. And they'll have Khalil Mack back too for next year. But
That's if they keep him. That's
keep
$30
him.
million on his contract for next year.
Yeah,
That's huge.
that's a lot of money.
And getting rid of him would save up a lot, and you have a lot of pieces to develop with that.
Yeah, you get a lot of pieces with that, and I think Khalil Mack's best game on the Bears was probably his first game,
Oh yeah,
and
sure.
after
against
that,
the Packers too.
he's made plays. Obviously, he's Khalil Mack,
Yeah.
but I feel like the Bears were trading for him to be a lot more than they thought he was.
Yeah, I mean he was still the number one guy in that defensive line for sure.
Oh yeah,
But then you got Robert Quinn, who's finally doing something, has 10 sacks on the year now. And if he could stay healthy, if Khalil Mack stayed healthy, I think this defensive line would be ferocious.
yeah. Them and Akeem and Eddie Goldman, there's just that is pretty good. And then to have Roquan Smith in the middle
Yeah.
and Danny Trevathan could be easily replaced. I feel like.
I think so too.
And then
he's more there for run stuffing. He
Yeah,
hasn't really done much of
and-
that either.
And another corner is 100% needed
Yes,
for your
for
defense.
sure.
That's probably the number one need, because after Jalen Johnson, it's Colno is I think it's like Kendall
Yeah, it's
Vildor.
Kendall Vildor, man.
And he's not that
He's
good.
had so many penalties. He had a crucial penalty against the Ravens that really set up their touchdown on the final drive too. It's just after Johnson, it's nothing really special.
Yeah, I mean, I think Johnson and Eddie Jackson are 100% the stars of that, and they need to build more into their secondary, because then their D-line can eat. But thank you for watching Average Joe Sports Show. We'll be back next week, and we'll have all of our Thanksgiving takes, and we'll have all of our games done to see what me and Colin's record are. So, see ya.